Alrighty, hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great day. Today's Wednesday, hump day, so we're in the middle of the week. Bitcoin kind of bounced back today, which was nice to see. We also had miners kind of bounce back today as well. That was nice to see as well. And you might see that the microphone is now in front of my face again. Let me know if the sound is pretty good. I'm trying to get rid of some of the background noise along with everything else and see if this works. Let me know. We got, obviously, the miners talk about how they did today. We'll also take a look at the miners as far as institutions. How have those been buying in the last 6 months and the last month as well? We got data on that. We have a bunch of good news stories on Bitcoin as well for adoption and other things. And we also have a story from Anthony Pompliano. He interviewed Van Eck, an employee there. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but we'll talk about it. And part of the conversation they had there was on the compensation of the miners, the CEO suite there. And so it's kind of nice to hear that others are also viewing the CEO compensation being a little too high there. And they're pushing back on these miners here, which is nice. So we'll listen to that. And then we get Q&A as well, and we'll call it a day here. So it should be pretty, probably not short, but it'll be sweet. As always, we got to get through this. Non-financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research. Full disclosure below that. Hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously here. And let's take a look at what's going on here with Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin is obviously, well, it was up today. It wasn't up nowhere near to where it bottomed out at, but it was at least up. It was up 1.26%, which was nice. We're up in the new day as well, about 0.42%. So we closed at today at 114,276, where we kind of talked about this yesterday that we said we had a similar pattern here happening a couple weeks back, right? We came down on it, we went up, similar like here, we came down, we went up. Then we came down here below the 50 SMA, right in the middle of the 50 SMA and the 100 SMA as well. Then we kind of bounced off of that there, and we actually went up higher here to eventually get to a new all-time high. But we're kind of seeing the same thing happening here right now. We'll see if this continues going forward, where we do bounce off of this and continue going up higher. I think that might be the case here. If not, like I said before, we might test the 100 SMA, which would be right around 111,000 at that point. Okay. Markets, for the most part, were in the red, except for Dow Jones. That was up just a little bit, 0.04%. NASDAQ was down. S&P was down. Russell 2000 was also down as well. Ethereum today was, let's see here, up nicely. It actually gained all the losses that it had from yesterday and then some. It was up 6.39% there on the day. Miners were in the green for the most part. There were a couple that were in the red here. Bitfarms was down 1.56%. It was down a lot more. Then it came back up, like some of these guys did as well. A lot of these guys were in the red here in the morning. BitTier was up just a little bit, 0.04% after bouncing off the 100 SMA here. You can see that candle wick bounced right off of that. That was nice. Kang was down 3.16%. Same thing, 100 simple SMA there. Cypher, 3.3%. That one got down pretty close to the 50 SMA on that one and bounced off of it. Then we had Cleanspark being up just a little bit, 1.39%. This thing has gone down all below the 50, 200, and the 100 SMAs as well. We'll see if we can actually bounce off of here. CORZ was down 1.88%. That one went below the 50 SMA. Hive was up a little bit, 0.42%. Hut 8 was up 1.5%, got close to the 50 SMA also and bounced from there. IREN was up 5.5%, being down much more. It was down probably 5% at one point and then it actually bounced up. That was nice. Marathon was up 1.85%. And this one's also below the 250 and the 100 SMAs there. Riot was up a little bit, 4.65%. That one's settling right at the 50 SMA, it looks like. It's been holding on to that pretty well. Wolf was up 5.69% here. This one's obviously way above the 50, 200, and 100 SMAs. MicroStrategy was up a little bit here for the Bitcoin hodlers here. It was up 2.32%. Galaxy was up 1.71%. Coin was up just a little bit, 0.77. Block was down 0.16. Metaplanet was up a little bit as well, 0.6. Let's see here. Semler was down. You can see the other ones. Phoenix, Jimmy was down as well. Small miners, for the most part, were in the red. Kind of mixed here, actually. DigiPower was up 8.26% on the day, so it gained back all the losses from yesterday. Who else was up? DMG was also gained all the losses from yesterday as well. And Canon was up just a little bit, 0.63%. The ETFs for the miners were all in the green, 1%, 2%, 1.8, 2.5% there. The Ethereum holding companies, treasury companies, BMNR was up 4.58%. BitDigital was up 1.47%. BTCS was up 5.4%. GameStop was up, not GameStop, was up 0.86%, and SBET was up 5.93%. And Bitcoin dominance here, was down in the day. So obviously we saw a lot of Ethereum buying there, maybe a little rotation happening there, but Bitcoin closed at 59.34. We're up just a little bit right now as it is. We'll see where that one goes. As far as the miners here in the after hours here, we can see BitDeer is actually down 1.47%. Bitfarms is flat on the day. After hours, Kango is up just a little bit here, 1.3%. Cypher is up 1.68. Cleanspark is down 0.32. CORZ Scientific is down 1.42. Hive is up just a little bit, 0.42%. Hot 8 is down 0.27. IREN is up 0.05%. Mara is down 0.32. Riot is down 0.32 as well. TerraWolf is up 1.94%. So that one's doing pretty good there. So there's that information. Looking at Bitcoin here for the month of August, we are still down 1.24%. Will we get in the green by the end of the month here? I think so. I still have a strong belief that we'll get there, but maybe the catalyst will be on Monday when we get, is it Monday that we get the notes from the FOMC meeting or something like that? Something happening on, not Monday, sorry, Friday. I think something's happening on Friday there. We might see a little pop there at that point. The Bitcoin ETF inflows and outflows had obviously huge outflows yesterday, 523 million. Today we're down 95 million. BlackRock, I bet, didn't report, or at least was flat. They didn't buy or sell. Maybe they were even on it, I guess. We'll see where they come in today, but we've had now, based on this, at least 4 straight days of red here. So maybe a little bit of correction in Bitcoin and the markets in general itself. All right, what else do we have here? Oh, next we get into the good news stories here on Bitcoin, or good news stories on Bitcoin here. So let's take a look at those stories here on this one. If we do that, zoom this in. This is something that we want to listen to also here really quick. This is from, I believe this is from the SALT conference as well. This is Eric Trump builds a case for 1 million Bitcoin price live on Wyoming. So there's no question that Bitcoin hits $1 million here. And let's just take a quick listen to this. Hopefully the sound isn't too loud here for you guys.
And the ease of being able to invest in it it's never been easier. And guys, that is going to open people's minds. That's going to put trillions of dollars into the asset. And so I think, you go out a couple of years, there's no question that Bitcoin hits $1 million. There is no question in the world that we go over $1 million, and we're going to have a hell of a ride.
I tend to agree with that, right? It's going to be a couple of years. I'm not saying it's going to happen over the next year or anything like that, but I think the next, I would say 5, 7, maybe 8 years, we'll definitely hit $1 million on Bitcoin here. I think that'd be fantastic. I'm sure you guys would be happy about it. Miners would probably be happy about it at that point as well. Next good news story that we have here is Hong Kong Family Office of Avenir reports over 1 billion in Bitcoin exposure right now. Asia BTC adoption is here. We definitely need to see that. And we're seeing more and more of that happening here as time progresses as well. So this is great news there on that. Next here is Canadian public company Planet Ventures closes 6.4 million in funding to buy additional Bitcoin. They're stacking more sats as well. That's awesome to see. Then we have here long-term holders of BTC hits on all-time high here. They're holding now 74% of the total Bitcoin supply here. So that's awesome to see, right? People are believing that Bitcoin's going to go up higher in value. They're holding on to it. Eventually they will sell, right? There's always going to be a certain point that people will sell, whether it's Bitcoin going to be, next step is going to be 150,000, then 200,000, whatever it's going to be, people will sell at certain points. So we are going to see some selling there. Next here, BTC demand is greater than supply. Anthony Scaramucci just look at the math. Demand is greater than Bitcoin issued supply. The call of BTC to 200,000 this year is still on. I'm still thinking between 150,000 to 200,000, but nonetheless, if we get to 200,000, that's going to be awesome. I'm going to be really happy about it. I'm sure you guys will as well. Next here is Thailand to accept Bitcoin payments for tourists. This is huge for Asia. So again, more adoption here happening in the space. I love seeing that. Next year, Fed Governor Waller just said Bitcoin and crypto is revolutionizing payments. What a time to be alive. That is definitely quite the statement there, and that's awesome. And then 208 billion New York State Common Retirement Fund increases Bitcoin exposure by 143% in Q2. Pension funds are embracing BTC. It's here. Yeah, we're seeing more and more of that happening as well, which is really, really nice to see. Right, we need as much adoption as we can get, because that's obviously going to increase the price of Bitcoin here in the long run. And then finally here we have Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong says, I think we will see 1 million per Bitcoin by 2030. So in the next basically 4.5 years. That's kind of what Eric Trump is saying there as well. So we have a lot of people here believing that Bitcoin will get to 1 million. I'm one of those. I think it's just a matter of time. It's not when, or it's not if, it's just a matter of when. We'll get there, whether it's going to be in the next 5 years or within 10 years. Nobody knows for sure, but we will get there in due course. And then finally here, we have this from Anthony Pompliano. He had an interview with, this was with Matthew Siegel. Matthew Siegel is the head of digital assets research at Van Eck. And they were talking about the Bitcoin mining companies here a little bit and on the compensation side of things. This is a couple minutes video here on this clip. We're going to take a quick listen to it. But I love seeing this, that some of these investment funds or whatever you want to call them are pushing back on the miners for their, I would say, egregious compensation for their some of their employees at least, right? It just doesn't make sense here, but let's listen into this and I'll give you guys my thoughts on it as well.
One of the other things that I've seen that I'm fascinated by is you guys were critiquing some of the crypto companies, some of the Bitcoin miners for their compensation structures. And, one of the things I think in Bitcoin and the broader crypto ecosystem for a long time is it was kind of unsophisticated, not in a negative, way, but just you have a lot of people who are builders, they're entrepreneurs, and the sophisticated traditional finance folks who have the rigorous analysis and are used to doing this and have kind of the reps and the skills and the expertise of analyzing from the outside, which I think in traditional finance holds a lot of companies accountable. They weren't paying attention to this stuff. That's starting to change now. And I think you see companies acknowledging that. They're excited by it. They want these people to, help them build a better company, give them access to capital. You mentioned the banks holding some of the paper, all that kind of stuff. You guys pointed out, though, hold on a second, some of the compensation structures here may actually be off. Talk through,
I just want to add here, it wasn't just them that pointed this out. I mean, the whole community here, I think, was pointing this out, not only on Riot, but also on Mora and some others as well, that their payment structure and compensation structure is just outrageous, right? So it wasn't just them. I think it was also just retail, sounding the alarm there a little bit as well. Let's continue on here.
What you guys noticed, why these companies, and then what your suggestion was.
Sure. So Van Eck, we just celebrated our 70th birthday. So we've been around a long time, and Jan Van Eck, CEO, takes a very engaged approach on governance. So both the Van Eck firm, which, although it's family owned, has an extremely professional board structure and management team, but also with how we approach our external investments. And via our ETFs, we're pretty large shareholders in companies where we don't necessarily have a PM who is making the investment decisions. So we do vote our proxies, intentionally. And now we show up as some of the top shareholders for the Bitcoin miners and these other companies. And so we wanted to take that same approach. And we noticed in 2021 that the executive comp at the Bitcoin miners was out of whack with, say, the Russell 3000, or even if you looked at like the tech sector specifically, it was too high. And
they were paying themselves too much.
Yeah, they're paying themselves too much. And I think it's exactly what you said, which is mostly retail shareholder base who just didn't really have time to read the corporate filings in a way to uncover that. And there weren't too many people on Twitter talking about it, right?
How much are we talking? Are they paying themselves like a couple $1 million?
No, tens of millions of dollars for the outliers, right?
Okay. Per year.
Yeah. And also, although a lot of it was in stock, the performance criteria were, not very strict relative to peers outside of Bitcoin.
Got it. So maybe if I play devil's advocate, in their defense, the numbers might have been big. There was some performance metrics they had to hit. I think your side is, yeah, but they were kind of foregone conclusions you were going to hit it. So it's not really performance driven as much as, performance driven is supposed to claim to be, kind of a thing that you're doing good for shareholders.
Yeah, you got it. And so things kind of...
we got ourselves a little debate on our hands between, okay, I got it now.
Yeah. So 2022, 2023, there was a bunch of bankruptcies. Like this topic was not front and center, but what we noticed in 2023, 2024 is like the problem has reemerged. And in 2024, to use the most egregious example, the board of Riot paid their named executives like 80% of the increase of the value of the stock that year went to the executives, essentially.
And unpack this in terms of, let's just say stock's worth $100 at the start of the year, it goes to 180. right? Or I'm sorry, it goes to 200. You're saying that $80 of that increase went to executives, and how much of that is performance based, where like if you hit a certain share price or something like that, versus it's like, hey, as long as you breathe and show up to work, you're getting some of the
it was more.
Yeah, it's kind of what it felt like. At least to, I think, retail, it felt like that if they just showed up to work, they were getting these things. That the performance metrics on this stuff, I think, were very lackadaisical at a lot of these companies.
The latter, right? And so this proxy season, shareholders have really started to push back, and they're.
And sorry to interrupt, but just one other question is, in those scenarios, did the stock go up a lot or a little? Like 80%, if it only goes up.
Yeah, so like Riot was kind of a not a great performer relative to others last year, and it happened to be that the executives had a really chunky chunk of it for 2024. So
got it. So there's like
definitely could be some
different
timing.
levers.
Yeah.
Okay,
There could be some timing things, but from any objective measurement, that specific package is egregious from our perspective. So we put out some research.
I should have had the Riot guys here. We could have had a little.
I just met them, so, we had the conversation in person. So we put out.
What was their, just out of curiosity, if you talked with them, what was their defense, or like what was their response?
Their response was that you're right, and we're going to pay ourselves zero next year. In the earnings report immediately following our report.
So actually, they're not going to pay themselves zero next year. It's going to be zero after the second half. Right through the first half, they still have some obligations, obviously, for stock-based compensation. But after that, they're saying that they're going to bring it down to zero.
They said in their call that exec comp was going to come down a lot next year, and then we learned that it'll basically be zero for the named executive comp officer. So it is.
Does that make you happy? Like are you satisfied with that answer? Oh, maybe not.
I think that let's see the whole package, right? Okay. Let's see what all the peers do. Yeah, the details matter. But I think looking at kind of your social media on Open Door and
Okay, so that's it. But basically, right, I agree with that. Right, we need to see what the package is going to be like going forward. Is it going to be zero stock-based compensation, but then they get dividends or something like that, right? I don't mind them making the money there as long as they're rewarding the shareholders there as well. Right. If the shareholders are doing good, I have no problem with the C-suite making money there as well. But it's got to be proportional to what they're generating in revenue on an annual basis, not way being exorbitant, I guess you could say. Okay. So there's that. I just want to point that out that we do have some people that are pushing back on this as well in the space, which is nice to see, and they're seeing that this is also egregious. So I love seeing that. That's great. Right, we need to keep these guys accountable here. They really should be answering to us, the shareholders. And sometimes these board members and they have an outside party that goes in and figures out what the compensation should be there. But they're looking at maybe companies that are valued at $1 trillion, $2 trillion, $3 trillion compared to these guys being valued at a couple $1 billion. I think there's a disconnect there a little bit. All right, but let's get into some of the minor stuff that I do have here for you guys here. The first one we're going to take a look at is, let me see here. I have a couple of things that I want to take a look at. First we're going to take a look at is the sats stats and the miners here. This is obviously updated as of yesterday. I updated this, but what we're looking here is sats mined per share from last month operations here. And we can see based on the number of shares, what number of shares do they have, how much Bitcoin do they mine, and then how many sats do you get per share of owning that company at that point. Right, so Kango came in number one, 367 sats per share. They are a new entrant here. They're also asset light, like you guys know, right? They started mining back in December of last year, so we only have a little bit of data on them. IREN came in second at this point with 324 sats per share. Cleanspark 239, Marathon 187, BitDeer 143, Riot 131, Hive 99, CORZ Scientific 59, and Cypher at 50 there. When we look at the HODL sats per share as well, obviously Marathon's going to be the number one here. You get 13,669 sats per share based on that. Riot, 5,218. Cleanspark, 4,519. Kango, 2,557 sats. BitDeer, 847. Hive, 299. Core, 390. Cypher, 310. And IREN doesn't hold any Bitcoin, no HODL, so that's zero. When we look at the BTC per exahash efficiency, IREN came in number one, 14.56. Riot, 13.6, then Hive at 13.4, then Cleanspark 13.4, Kango at 13, BitDeer 12.6, Marathon 11.7, Cypher 11.4, Core at 9.9. Right, we look at this also as basically how efficient are they? What's their kind of like a little bit of uptime as well on that. But that just shows us the better the BTC per exahash efficiency, the better the revenue is going to be also, and number of Bitcoin mined as well. All right, so there's that, the stats on stats for that for the month of July here. And next, let's take a look at institutions here. So institutions, we track this on a monthly basis to see where the miners are after they report their monthly production updates. And we do have some data here. We look at the 6 months and the 1 month difference. We look at the price percent difference from 6 months ago on these guys. We also look at the shares added by institutions. And then we also look at the price difference from last month on these guys and the shares added by the institutions at that point as well. So first we're going to look at is shares added here by the institutions here over the last 6 months. Based on that, IREN comes in number 1 with 44.9 million shares being bought up by institutions here, followed by Cango at 30. Well, this one is probably off because I only have like 2 months of data. I only have July and June, so we really can't go back the full 6 months on this. Cleanspark came in at 24.9. So that one probably should be like number 2 spot there. Cypher with 20.7 million here. Riot with 12.7 as well. BitDeer at 7.8 million shares, Marathon 6.6, Core at 3.3, and Hive is actually down from 6 months ago, 3.29 million shares by institutions there. So that's to the downside on them. If we look at month over month here, IREN again came in number 1 here with 11.1 million shares being added by institutions. CORZ Scientific, 9.5 million here. BitDeer 3.9 million, Marathon 450,000, Cango 290,000, Riot 100,000. Cleanspark's down 740,000 from month prior. Hive is down 1.1 million, and Cypher is down 3.8 million. A little surprised by that one there. And you can see the price performance here in the last month, more or less, and you can see it here from 6 months ago what their price has done. Obviously, IREN has done very well here, up 145%. So that's really good. Percentage owned by institutions 6 months from 6 months ago. Cango had a 22% increase. Cango, like I said, I only have 2 months of data, so don't go by that. IREN 18%, Cypher 11%, Cleanspark 9%, BitDeer 4%, Riot's actually down 1%, Core is down 2%, Marathon down 3%, and Hive is down 8% based on what they had there. Going down here, NLS high price targets changes. So NLS high dollar amount changed 6 months ago, right? So it's a difference. What was the analyst target here last month in July compared to 6 months ago, right? Was that an increase or a decrease? And that's kind of what we're getting here on both these 6 months and the monthly. So Cango had a $8 basically increase here from 6 months ago, but again, I only have data for 2 months. Riot was $2 plus. IREN was flat. Cypher was flat. Hive was also flat. Core was down $1. Marathon $4. BitDeer $5, along with Cleanspark there. So we have had some analysts bring down their price targets on these guys from 6 months ago to last month. And then if we look at from last month here, month over month basically change on it. Marathon had an increase about $8 here month over month. Riot about $6. IREN $3. BitDeer $2. Then we had Cleanspark, CORZ Scientific, Cypher, Hive, and Hive here. It's probably going to be Cango here on one of these. They were all flat, more or less, from month over month here. And here you can see the number of institutions that have increased or decreased in each one of these guys here. Then down here we can see analyst high price targets, just the general high price targets for these guys here. Marathon's at $33 from an analyst here. Cleanspark's at $25, BitDeer at $26, Riot at $22, Core at $23, Hive at $11, IREN $24, Cango at $8 roughly, Cypher about $9 there as it is. And then when we look at analyst high price difference from current stock valuation, so we're looking at what's their what the analyst price target is and what is the current stock price, what's the difference between those two. Marathon should be up $17.55. Cleanspark should be up another $15.51 from where it's at right now. BitDeer should be up $13. Riot should be up 9.4. Core 8.9. Hive 8.6. IREN 4.2. Cango 3.4. And Cypher $3 and change there. Right, percentage-wise, Hive would be the biggest gainer there if it actually went up to where the analysts think the high price target should be. That would be a 358% increase for them. Cleanspark 163%. Marathon 113% increase. BitDeer 100. Riot 75%, Cango 74%, Core 63%, Cypher 51%, and IREN 21%. IREN obviously has had a nice run up here, right? So that kind of makes sense there. And then here's the current stock prices for these guys as of today. So like IREN, right, you got 1976. They should be up another $4.24. That would get them to the $24 range roughly, more or less, right? That's kind of what we're looking at here on that side of things. And that's it. So yeah, institutions are still kind of buying into some of these guys here. We are seeing some outflows in the last month, at least on the 6-month time basis. We definitely are seeing increases in a lot of these guys over the last 6 months. Going forward, it's going to be interesting to see how that translates month over month, I think. But right now, we're definitely seeing a lot of interest in IREN here over the last month. 11 million shares being added by institutions here, along with CORZ Scientific. CORZ Scientific, obviously, because of the deal with CoreWeave there. BitDeer also is kind of interesting that one's gotten quite a bit of interest there as well. And the rest here, some of these guys, Cypher, Hive, and Cleanspark being down a little bit. So some have maybe taken profits or are rotating to something else at that point as well. All right. But that's it. Kind of interesting to take a look at those as well to see what the mind or the thought process is by institutions, at least, on these guys here over the last 6 months and the last month as well. All right. So as always, this spreadsheet will be available to my Patreon members. Link for that will be down in the description. As always, if you want to join us, a couple bucks a month, help support what I do, and you get access to all this data at that point. So thank you to everyone that's a Patreon member, and thank you to everyone that's a YouTube member as well. Greatly appreciate you guys there. You guys are supporting and making it a possibility for me to do this stuff, daily here. Greatly appreciate it. Okay, let's get into Q&A here. As always, if you guys could preface the questions with a question mark or a Q, I would appreciate it. And if you could be also kind and polite in the comments with one another, I would appreciate it as well. Right? We may have different opinions, but we are all here to make money, I guess, in the long run. So I'm going to roll my scroll up on the comments here, questions and things like that, and we'll work our way down as always. So be patient. I will get through everything as well. See where we want to start out here. Okay, covered that as well. Okay. Okay, John says, eventually there will be 24-hour trading worldwide on the Ethereum blockchain, just a heads up. I'm surprised we're not there yet, right? It's a different world from where we were, I would say, even 20 years ago, let alone 40 or 50 years ago, back in like the 1980s when the stock market was, the stock market's been around for a long time, but once you started getting computers and things like that, I mean, right now we have that power to do it 24/7. I'm surprised it doesn't happen already. Bitcoin trades 24/7. If Ethereum trades 24/7, altcoins trade 24/7. There really should be no reason why some of these other publicly traded companies cannot trade 24/7, right? So I'm with you on that. All right. BJS. Seb, just out of curiosity, what makes you so hooked on the miners after all these years? I've watched your videos for years, and you've never really diversified when all these other sectors aren't as disappointing. I like the fact that we get the data on these guys monthly, right? We can see how we're doing. That's the other thing I would love to see. I would love to see the SEC change their stance on having the companies provide quarterly updates. I think if they provided monthly updates as well, here's what we sold last month, here's what we did last month, right? I think that's isn't too hard to ask. All that data is in a database someplace. You can pull it out within seconds and make it available to the investors there. I think they should do that. That's just my take. But we'll see if that ever gets around to doing. As far as why I'm still in them, that's one of the reasons. Just the data that's available on these guys. You can track them. You can see how they're doing. I love that part of it. The other part, I think they're still way undervalued for the most part, a lot of these guys here. And I think the gains here could be very, very well here in the future. So I haven't given up on that part yet. Will the gains be there? I'm hoping that's the case, right? Bitcoin goes up to 200,000 or something like that. I think the gains will be there. But yeah, it hasn't been an easy process. And I knew it wasn't going to be an easy process. That's why I started dollar cost averaging into these guys, a lot of these guys at least, and back in 2023. I just didn't know where the bottom was going to be. I don't know where the top's going to be, but we're going to try to ride it as best we can here and make some good profits at that point, right? If I can beat the S&P 500 as far as annual returns, I'm going to be happy, right? So if I can get, some of these guys already have over 100% gains. If I can get 200, 300% gains, I'm going to be really happy at that point. All right. Bhupinder, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Says, hi, Sebastian. Good evening. Hi to you as well. Thanks for coming in here. BJ says, I just feel like someone who can crunch numbers and pay attention to detail would be doing so much better if you didn't limit yourself to the miners so much. That is a possibility there, right? But my time is limited. I only have so much time in the day. I work a full-time job. I got family. I got kids. I got other responsibilities. So being focused on one part makes it easier, I think, right? Instead of having to search other things, and it's tough. I'm not gonna lie, it takes time. Sadie, thanks so much. Absolutely, likes do help. Let's see. For your cycle, Cleanspark continues to be a train wreck. No way they survive the next halving unless they sell their entire BTC stack or start to massively dilute. Not necessarily. Bitcoin goes up to 200,000. They're going to be generating about 1.4 billion or 1.6 billion, somewhere around there, in annual run rate in Bitcoin. Profits on that would be, oh gosh, probably close to, what would that be? I think like 60% or something like that, maybe better, 65%, something like that, profits on it. So they will be fine. I have no concerns with them going forward here. And we'll see if they pivot into HPCI like they've kind of mentioned a little bit here. So we'll see. All right. Sour says, I'm back, basically back to break even on the week. So yesterday did absolutely nothing. Okay. Sour says, for your cycles, Cleanspark has one of the best balance sheets in the space. You're poorly mistaken. Okay. Yeah, I would agree with you there. Sour says, I love how people get butthurt over share price and start talking how a company's crap or going bankrupt. Any of that nonsense standard practice for an emotional and inexperienced trader investor. Yeah, you have to be through the cycles. I've been through it at least twice now. I'm a little bit more immune to this, I think. As maybe some people that are newer to the space might not be, but you definitely get this kind of depressing price action on some of these guys, sure, but eventually they will run, I believe. Right, you got to know what you own as well. They got 1 gigawatt plus of power. They're generating good revenues there. They're gonna figure things out. Guy asks when Cleanspark will run. Back to single digit. I believe everyone is losing hope in Cleanspark even to run for 15. Maybe it will go up to 13, 14. Give it time. I think Bitcoin going up will help tremendously here for them. I think if they start talking about HPC and making some good headways towards that, I think that's going to help the stock as well. But we'll see. I still have faith in them. All right, Dynamite Uber has a question here. Did Cleanspark CEO just now seriously talking about HPCI? Other companies are running toward a deal, and Cleanspark is now just crawling. Talk about being clueless, laughing my butt off. They are just now talking about, yeah. So I think that's why Zach was let go as the CEO position there. I think he was the one that was pretty adamant about them being a pure play Bitcoin miner. And maybe the other team members there, and maybe the board wasn't in on that as well, right? So we'll see what happens with that. But also I think, right, I wouldn't count out, I always like the analogy of Apple, right? Apple has never been really like the first to do something. They've always been, a year or two behind, maybe even 3 years behind on something. But then they just come out with a blowout product. But that's Apple, right? I'm not comparing Cleanspark to Apple here, but I'm just saying that being the first is not always the best, is what I would say. Rusty says, fire Jason. Well, it's not just Jason there, it's the board as well, right? The board has a compensation committee, right? Did they give too much to them? Yeah, I think so. Mr. X says, wow, these executives are paid way too much. Yep, they are. Okay. Let's see. Riot. Let's see. Sour. I definitely understand your comment. What's the word I'm looking for? Frustration with Riot there. I definitely I can see that. Rogue says, so glad I didn't buy Riot. Yeah, I didn't buy it either. There were just they had operational issues. It's just something didn't line up for me for them. But man, if they get a HPCI deal, they could still pop really nicely here. David says, Riot's CEO's hand got caught in the cookie jar, and he pinky promised that he'll stop doing that next year. Wink, wink. Let's see. Rogue says, I wouldn't want to work for 1 year for free. I doubt they would either. They're still getting paid their regular salary, which is about $1 million, plus some BTC, I think, that they're getting there as well. So they're getting paid that way. The big thing was about the stock-based compensation. It was like, I think Jason came in at like 40 or 60 million for 2024. That's right. So he's got some cash here. He needs to work it off, I think, for a couple of years for free based on that to be, properly compensated. Fairfax says, agreed. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. All right. Dynamite says, breaking news. I don't think this is breaking news. Jason Les resigned as CEO with a golden parachute after cutting down next in line CEO's compensation package to 0. Yeah, we probably won't see that. Riot's up 22% year to date. Cleanspark 3. The reason for that is Riot has definitely talked more about HPCI, right? They're pausing expansion to 45 exahash of Bitcoin, and the rest is supposed to be used for HPCI. They also got activist investors on there that are kind of pushing them in that direction. So that's the reason why. Let's see. Fairfax says someday Cleanspark will soar. Jago says mining is cooked. I don't think so. I think that we might be in a pretty good run here. Let's see. Sour says Riot are by far the shadiest. They have the highest compensation, I would say there. I don't think that it was shadiest, but they got awarded by the board there. So I mean, can't blame them for taking it. I'm trying to find another question here. Let's see. Okay. Are there still people out there who are hating on IREN? Prepare for them to crush earnings. Yeah, I think the earnings will be great. They're going to be reported next week, I think, right? The 28th. Neville, thank you so much for that. Mr. X, have you reached max pain yet? V-shaped recovery. I think maybe some people have, but this isn't pain for me. This is like normal. Max pain is when we were down, 70-80% on Bitcoin. This being down 10%, this is a day walking in the park. Guy says, do you still believe Cleanspark will do a 3x from here? BTC tops at 142. If it tops at 142, no. At that point, we'll be lucky if Cleanspark goes up like 50% at that point. Let's see. Okay. David asked, do you have a website where all your charts are on miner holdings and ETF projections? The math from the announcement of the ETF approval is spot on. I don't have a website. I have a Patreon page. You can get access to all my spreadsheets there. Okay. Guy says, we love you. Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Love you guys as well. Okay, let's see. Can we do a poll if Jason Les will be fired? Well, we can do the poll. See what you guys think. To be honest, I'm surprised that he still has a job there after the Bitfarms debacle and then selling that shares at a loss. But that's just me, right? Maybe he's a really good smooth talker there. Let's start a poll. Let's see. Will Jason Les be fired? Let's see. All right, there's a poll. The poll is running right now. Okay, Capris says, I finally decided to buy IREN, so that must mean it will dump 30% tomorrow. No, that shouldn't be the place. That shouldn't happen. Okay. Heinze asks, question, did you give us Cleanspark? Not sure what you mean by give you. I was the one that talked about it back in 2022, 2023, maybe even 2021, I think. Did I give up on Cleanspark? No, I didn't give up on Cleanspark. I still hold a lot of shares there. I'm holding on to it. I think its day will come. All right, David Weir, Cypher CFO has stated in the past that the sweet spot for HPCI deal is at least 150 megawatts with so many small sites. Does Cleanspark even have a chance of getting a deal? I think so. I mean, they're going to be doing a review on their sites. Big thing, obviously, is going to be with fiber. Do you have fiber redundancy at those sites potentially? Are the sites big enough to be retrofitted to then also house like maybe backup generators and the water cooling systems, right? Racks. So that's going to be up to them to decide. But I think with them having 32 sites, I think at least a couple, maybe like a handful of sites might be good for that on the smaller side of things. A lot of their sites are, I think, between 50 and like 200 megawatts sites. And some of them are obviously less than 50 megawatts as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. Neville says Bitfarms will get a deal before Riot. Wouldn't that be a rub in Riot's nose a little bit? All right. Moist, I'm sorry, Flores. I'm going to call you Flores because I can't say the first part of your name. I've been following you for over a year or so. You've been a huge fan of Bitfarms. Can you honestly tell us they will ever get over $2 on to $4 again? Honestly, I do think so. Right? They're not diluting, at least not in the next 6 months or so. It doesn't look like they'll be diluting. They don't have any expenditures for things that they need to buy. They're at 17 something exahash right now. That's where they're gonna stay. They do have a loan with McGuire, I think it's called. It's a company there to help them build out their HPC AI data center. So they have that. They are also working with T5 now as well to help design and maybe build out the data centers. So if they can get a deal for HPC AI, I think that's going to be great for them. They are buying back shares as well, which I think is great. And even with Riot selling the stock has actually done pretty well here in the last probably month and a half or so. So they're back above, what are they at, $1.20 something right now. As it is, getting back to $2, I think will be fairly easy for them, especially when Riot is done selling there. Riot's got about 4.2% left to sell. And from there, we could definitely go up higher if they get a deal for HPCI. But that deal is going to be sometime in, it could happen this year, but the build out's going to be until possibly 2026 sometime. And we'll see how fast they can build it out at that point. So, yeah, there's definitely some potential for them here. Betty says Cleanspark will hit $25 to $30 by end of the year. So that would be great. Okay, Edward says Bitfarms' last daily candle is bullish. Okay, so that's looking good too. Okay, by the way, your mic volume is very low. I know I'm a soft-spoken person. I got it. Let me see if I can tune it up a little bit. I don't want to go too high on it because otherwise you guys complain that you get the mouth noises and you get background noises. So let's see if this works a little bit better for you guys. I don't know why it is. I've been trying to figure out my microphone for the past 2 years. I may need to hire somebody that's got some sound knowledge to work on this thing, but we'll see. Okay. Okay, Rogue says, Caprice, I watch YouTube through Brave browser. It cuts out the ads. Also, if you have YouTube Premium, which I do, I highly recommend you guys get that as well because it saves you so much time with commercials and everything else. And I'm not getting paid to say that. I love it. It's a couple bucks a month. But man, the amount of time you save, and time saved is money made, basically. All right. Pitt asks, hello, Seb, if you had dry powder, in which miner would you put it? If I had dry powder right now, I think I'd probably buy a little bit more Cypher, I think. I'd probably buy more Cleanspark as well. Maybe even more Bitfarms at this point. That's kind of where I would probably go into those three, I think. Those three, I think, are still kind of undervalued there. All right. Neville says, I think AWS will ink a deal with Bitfarms. First, Ben says the site is meant to attract a hyperscaler like Google. Then they appoint someone who came from AWS to the board. Yeah, that helps a lot, I think. It's more on the people that you know and the connections that they have that can help you out tremendously here. We saw that with, I think this happened also with TerraWolf, with Stanley Druckenmiller, right? Investing in them. He's got obviously connections all over the place. I think that helped out with one Core 42 deal. And then obviously getting with Google there and what's that company they called there? Fluid Stack to get in there as well on it. So I think it definitely helps there. Pitt says, thank you for your input. You're very welcome. I mean, that's basically all I do is I give you guys my thoughts on where I see things. Could I be wrong on it? Yeah, absolutely. Right. That's why I always start the show out saying not financial advice. You guys got to do your own research in that. But we'll see where things go. And I think I've caught up to all you guys' questions here. But I'm still long-term bullish, obviously, on Bitcoin and on Cleanspark and IREN and Cypher and Bitfarms as well. And all these guys here. I think as Bitcoin goes up higher to 150,000, 200,000, whatever it might be, those guys should do much better here. Right now, the big thing that we're seeing is, Bitcoin is going sideways a lot of times where we're seeing accumulation happening for a number of months. That's not ever a great thing for the miners. The miners need Bitcoin to be going up, at least like we saw last cycle and the prior cycle as well, where Bitcoin went parabolic. That definitely helped out tremendously for them because we didn't have these kind of pauses in Bitcoin going sideways, and then people are getting bored with, the miners because they're not moving up. Well, because Bitcoin's not moving up. So that has played into it. We need a consistent run in Bitcoin for a couple of weeks, couple of months maybe, where it just goes up, 10% each month or something like that. I think that would help out. But that's the only thing I can think of why the miners aren't doing as well as they did last time. Yes, they've diluted quite a bit, but you also got something for it. And people are getting a little bit more smart. There's more on-ramps for Bitcoin as well. You now have ETFs. You have there's so many ways to get into it right now. You got companies becoming treasury companies for Bitcoin as well. So it's not the same as we had in 2021 or even 2017 cycle as it is. But at that point, we only had like really 2 companies, I think, to invest in. We had Hive and Hut 8, and then we might have had like DMG in there, and maybe Digihost was also on the Canadian Stock Exchange side of things. So overall, I'm still bullish. I think we're going to do fine here. We just need Bitcoin to go up in value in the long run. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for everyone for coming in. Love you all. I hope you guys have a great Thursday. We'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll see what happens on Friday. We'll obviously talk about it, and I'll see you guys then. Until then, bye.